Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. It's Alla from Cards Ahead. I'm glad you decided to join me today. If you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe. If you've been here before, welcome back. I would love it if you could like and perhaps leave me a kind comment down below. And by liking, I mean liking the video. I don't know where my brain is today. Let's see how this is going to go. I am doing a little bit of a different project than I usually do here on my channel, because those that have known me for a bit know that I don't usually make the same kind of card many times in a row. But today I'm sharing some of my mass making tips with all of you, because I am facing a challenge of creating some birthday invitations for my daughter's birthday. I think I only needed like 6 or 7. I will have to check that before I actually put the sentiments on these. But anywho, I have materials for 8 cards. So like I said, I'm just going to leave a few blanks so that I can just add a general congratulations whatever text so that I can use them for some other reason. But because I'm mess making, I had 4 cards made as easily as 6 basically. But yeah, what comes to invites, of course it depends on how many you are making. I'm only making 8, but if you were making like 150 or 300, come on, wedding card invitations or wedding invitations, you might want to think about a few things. One is expenses, because if you are making a whole pack of cards, you can't spend like $5 on making one card. So that's just something. For example, I have used some pearlescent cardstock in here. This is a cheap kind, but especially like mirror cardstock and things like that can be quite expensive. So that's just something to keep in mind. Or if you would like to use, for example, some fancy embellishment on your cards, they can be like $1 or $2 each, or €1 or €2 each. So that's just something to keep in mind. Other thing is to keep it simple, because if you have like an image that you would like to color in, it takes a lot of time. Maybe you are prepared for that, but maybe you don't want to do that for 150 cards, for example. So that's just something. And in my case, I would not like to tie a bow on 150 cards. So that's another deal. Like you can see, my version is going to be quite clean and simple. It has layers, it has embellishments, but it doesn't have anything I colored. Even the stamped image is really simple. I've just fussy cut it out, but if you were making more, you might want to leave it as a banner or something like that to make it quicker and easier. My next tip is to make a prototype. Before you cut any additional papers for those 150 cards, please make a prototype. Figure out the proportions, if they work, if the card becomes what you want it to be. Because it would truly suck if you would do the base work for all those cards. Then you would start putting first one together and notice like, no, this is not what I want. So always do the prototype. Next step would be an assembly line. So don't take them like card by card. Don't cut the materials for one card, then glue it all together for one card, then embellish it for the one card, then stamp for the one card. So a smarter way to do it is, after doing the prototype, cutting everything apart you're making sure you have the bases, making sure you have the matting layers and all that, the sentiments, whatever you need for it. So that would be the next thing. And when I start putting these together, I will show you more of that assembly line style that I like to do with these. Of course, it's good to avoid small pieces. Like if you, well, I have the embellishments here. But if you would be using a die cut image, for example, like, or a cutting die that has lots of intricate pieces that you have to glue together, that's not necessarily smart, especially if you are not a crafter like that. Just keep your own style and the things you like to do in mind when you start planning on what you want to do. Then, of course, reserve enough time, because even if your invitations or whatever cards you are mass making, you might be mass making birthday cards or whatever, just keep in mind, even if it's a simple one, if you do that 100 times, it's about to take you a few days at least. So maybe don't leave it for the last minute. But then again, on the other hand, when you start cutting the pieces, it feels like it's taking you forever. But after you are done with that step, it's going to make the rest of the process a lot quicker. So that's, I think, the main tips for mass making. Now, I used my newest kit, which is now up on my coffee shop. It's called Unicorn Dreams. So I have included tons of unicorn papers. I have the same size images on the kit. This is only a small portion of everything I have available in there. It's a printable kit, so obviously you could just print one page number times, or if you are using any other printable kit, you could just use one page, or if it's a single image, you could put that many times on one page and just use those. But in this case, it's all the same size, it's all the same style, so I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about which goes together, so I'm able to use different images for a mass make like this. Same with the backgrounds. I have 2 of each background. They might be a little bit different in colors because of the design, but still basically 2 from the same sheet of paper. So same if you are using a physical paper pad, you would just end up with different patterns. But just keep in mind, if you're working with tons of different colors, tons of different patterns, you might end up in a position where you will have to think a lot more about if this image goes on this paper and so on. So once again, keep it simple. But now, let me check if, exactly how many invitations I need for my daughter's party. And after that, I will be back and let's start putting this together. And I will talk more about that assembly line. Okay, so turns out I need 7. So I'm just going to count. I have 1 ready. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 2 extras of these. I'm going to hide these from myself so that I don't put those on the cards. I'm going to make the 8 or the 7 that I have left now that I have 1 put together. But yeah, let's start. Once again, about expenses, I usually use the folded card bases or double card bases, whatever you want to call them. But in this case, when I'm making multiples, and these will most likely get destroyed by 5-year-olds or get just thrown away after the body is done. So I'm using single layer cardstock this time around. That's just one more tip for saving a little bit of money on these. I have also cut out some, as you can see, my back pieces are not whole. They are, I use these to die cut images out for future use. That doesn't matter because this is going to get covered, you can't see it. But that's another tip. If you have some fancy cardstock, you might as well just make the most of it. And with that came a happy accident. And that is these embellishments right here. Because I have this bubble wreath die and it cuts out these little bubbles as well. So that's what I'm going to use as my embellishments. They're all here, sorted out, waiting for the use. Now, let's get started. I usually like to go from top to bottom. Of course, it varies a little bit. But actually, what I think, let's roll back a little bit. I think because I do want some pink ink on the image and then on the background layer. So that is what I'll do first. I will most likely speed this up after a while, but let's see. So I'll just dab around the corners. And once again, assembly line, I'm doing all of these at once because then that means I can move on to the next step and I don't have to take my ink pad out again. I don't have to go from step to step. That just saves some extra time. There we go. I'm using the Kitsch Flamingo Distress Oxide, but of course use any ink you have and whatever matches your project. There we go. I'm done talking. Now let's speed through this. That's all the inking done, and now the next step on my assembly line is gluing the pieces together. Because I'm going to be propping this up, once again, if you have more than what I have here to make, you might not want to use any, you know, foam squares or anything like that, because it takes a bit more time. You might want to just simply glue everything down. But because I'm working with a small batch, I am having a little bit more freedom when it comes to things like that. So I'm just simply taking these, and because I'm going to prop this up, that's probably why I was talking about this, I decided not to cut everything out of this. I could have got like a sentiment or something, but because this image that I'm using here was printed on some thin-ish paper. It's a bit on the thinner side. I think it's 160 GSM. I think that's about 90 pounds, but I'm not entirely sure. So once again, I'm just gluing these smaller pieces all at once, because that's, at least for me, also easier, because that way I don't have to guess what sort of a border I was supposed to leave. I can just do it from the muscle memory, more or less. I think at least that makes it a little bit easier. There we go. And after I'm done with the smaller ones, I'm going to move on to the big ones. And actually, for the sake of this video, I think I'll do one of the... Hold on, let me just glue this down first. I will do one of the bigger pieces first, because there's something to remember now that the center is missing. So let me go aside from my assembly line here for a bit and just show you what I mean. So the center is missing. That's why I don't want to put any glue on the center of this thing, as in right now. So I'll just put glue on the pattern paper on the sides, and then I will go on my base level here and put some strings of glue around the piece that I have cut out. That way I can make sure that most of this is glued down and that I'm covering the edges of this as well. But at the same time, I'm not ending up with this whole piece glued onto my table. And because I want to avoid the sinking of this piece, I'm just gently pushing on the edges where the glue is too. I'm trying not to push on the middle. I can also flip this like so to avoid pushing this piece down here. I hope that makes sense. Anywho, now let me get all this done and I will be right back. So now I have two neat piles of all glued down pieces, and now it's time basically to put them together. But first I will put the adhesive squares or 3D foam squares on these. Now maybe a faster way to do this would be putting some tape, like a double-sided dimensional tape on this, but this is what I have on hand. This is what I'm used to, or this is what I'm used to basically. So for me it's a good option, but for somebody else this might not work at all. They might see this as fiddly and something that takes a lot of time. But yes, I feel like as long as these are really pressed down super well, it's easy to take them, or take the backs off from these. I can basically just flip them off with a nail. So there's that. And now I will finish the rest on or off camera, and after that I will be back again. Now that I've got all my pieces ready, I'm going to play it safe, because I have a few different kind of images and papers in here. Once again, this is one of the reasons why you might not want to do that if you are working with a big batch. But I feel like there might be some of these that would not maybe work together that well. Like, for example, I have some images with these diagonal stripes, so I might not want to put that on a paper that has diagonal stripes. So there we go. I think I'll actually get rid of that while I still can. So it, like I said, for the most part, they all go together. It's not a big deal, but I'm just trying my best not to run myself into a corner. And once I feel like, yeah, this is fine, I'm going to use these on these cards, I can get to actually putting these together. I can also look at the colors a little bit. Like, I know I'm going to set this piece a little bit towards the top because I want the sentiment to fit. Once again, it's good to have a prototype. So I know it's going towards the top. So if I have like this yellow stripe here on the background, and I don't particularly like how that looks on this yellow background, I can turn it around to, well, it's the same color, but you get the idea. I can play with the placement at this point because my patterns here, they are not meant to go on a different or certain way. They are non-directional. That's what I'm looking for. That's the word I was trying to find. Thanks, brain. You're doing awesome today. But yeah, now I'm just trying to center this on the card, make it straight, and then pushing it down. This would also be a great way to make a bunch of birthday cards or maybe Christmas cards to your colleagues or something like that, because even though they have the same sketch or same style or something like that, the images would still be different. So there are many ways to do a mass make, and this is just one of them. There we go. So now you know what I'm doing here, so I'm just going to put this one down. As you can see, I can peel the backings off really easily now that they are really pressed down on the paper. So that's not an issue for me. But yeah, I'll get everything done, and then I will turn the camera back on for the next step. Now, after that is done, I have two different routes I could take. I could either put these on the card bases right now, or I can finish the sentiments and the embellishments first, and I think that's what I'm going to do first. Especially if you know you are going to store the finished invitations for a bit, I would probably do the same thing in that case, because of course the card bases will add some bulk. So if you would just store these as they are right now, they would take a lot less room. So especially if you're making birthday cards that you want to hang on to for a little bit before you send them off, you could make these fronts ready and then just put them on the card bases whenever you are getting ready to send them. And of course with general cards or birthday cards, you might want to not put the sentiment on before you are ready to ship them, so that you know who they're going for. I'm just looking at my reference card or the prototype, the first version, to figure out where I want my sentiment, and then I'm gluing it on. I decided to start with the sentiments rather than the embellishments for the reason that the sentiment takes more room. So I don't want to end up in a spot where I have placed the sentiments so that I don't have enough room for, or place the embellishments so that I don't have room for the sentiment anymore. There we go. Now these are super cute girly images. My daughter is turning 5 and she asked for some unicorn invitations. So these are perfect for her. But if I wanted to be extra fancy with this little batch of cards that I have, I could always add, like, I think it's called Wink of Stella or stickles or something like that. You know, glitter glue to make these extra fancy, but I think I will leave that out for now. And once again, after these are down, I will be back with the next step. it's time for the embellishments. Like you can see, one of my cards is with the different sentiment. These say welcome for the invitations, but this one says just congrats because that's the one extra card that I don't need for the invitations. So I'm going to use my, oops, that doesn't belong here. Going to use my example or my prototype as my guide here. I'm going to use the same order because I'm happy with that. I think I will take these one by one. Let's just start with one because it's easier to work with an even surface than it would be otherwise. I'm using my, I think this is called jewel picker. These have many different names. Wax tool, Stampin' Up has a take your pick tool. So I think there are as many names as people or companies that manufacture these. But anywho, these are really handy when it comes to fiddly bits and small pieces like these. I'm just going to start by adding some glue on my card front so that I have spots where I can put this, and I'm putting these on the base or the card front rather than putting them on these round things. That's simply because it would be a whole lot more difficult to get them on the back of these things than it is to put some glue down on the paper. So there is one done. Let's do another one. Once again, I'm just using about the same placement as with my previous ones. It might not be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's good to keep in mind that most likely the people who get these invitations, they won't see the invitation that the other person got, at least not side to side. But, or especially with kids, it's not like they care about things like, hey, that dot is a little bit different than my friend has it. So there we go. But yeah, once again, I'll do this off camera, not to make this video awfully long. And after that, I will see you again for our final step. So I already got started with putting these on the bases, putting the fronts on the bases. But I just wanted to show you, I had a little bit of an accident. Well, first of all, I did want to put this on one of these double-sided card bases because this is the birthday card. But my glue bottle kind of had a little malfunction and some glue oozed through the cap right here or under the cap. And I got that on my hands and I did not realize it until I had this on my hand and I was putting glue on the back. And I accidentally ended up with some glue splotches here. And because this is printed paper, it reacts to the glue quite easily. So it would not have been looked pretty, or it would have not looked pretty if I would have just left it, even though the glue tries clear itself. But I had to add a few dots in here to cover those. I do prefer the original version a lot more with the placement, but that was just one way to fix it. So if something like that happens to you, find a way to work around it if you can. No need to waste the whole thing. Another thing that I wanted to talk about while I put, oh my goodness, it just, once you get in trouble with the glue, it keeps on going. I took another glue bottle. I will deal with the other one later. But yeah, it just looks like it's not going my way today with the glue. But yeah, the thing I wanted to talk about was when you, well, obviously this would not, like this, be a great invitation because it doesn't tell people where to go and when. But writing those information bits and pieces on hand would be a lot to do. So my tip for that is using the Canva templates. There's a free version of Canva. It's not time limited or anything like that. You don't have all the things in Canva to use with the free version, but there are a lot you can use. So they offer different sorts of templates, like invitation templates. And that is what I'm planning to use personally. Of course, if you are not happy with using Canva, you can always do it in Word or perhaps even PowerPoint or whatever program you have on your computer or phone that you are used to using. But Canva would be, for me, the simplest and easiest choice to do all that. And when you are gluing the backs, the actual invitation parts down, make sure, always double check that you are gluing it the right side up. But if there happens to be a mistake where you glue it upside down, always have a few extra pieces printed on hand so that you can just take another one and glue it on top of the one that you accidentally glued upside down. So I decided to put some glue in here as well, although it might sink a little bit. I thought it wouldn't be too bad. And if I know my daughter, I don't know if other 4 or 5-year-olds are the same, but she's really curious about what's going on under something, so she might try to rip this off. And it is quite secured, and I feel like if it was on that kind of like loose piece of paper, it might rip completely. So that's why I decided to do that. I usually wouldn't. So let's put these extra pieces aside. I don't need them right now. I will use them for something. But let's see. Here are my 8 same but different invitations. Let me take a look to see what you see. I think this might be zoomed in a little close. Let's just stack them a little bit so that you can kind of see them all. But yeah, or actually, let me just do this. If you are interested in the kit, which is once again the Unicorn Dreams, I will link that down below. Once again, I did not have all the possible colors of cardstock or specialty paper on my stash, so I just used something that kind of works. This turquoisey or teal-ish blue is not probably the best pick for these papers. Something more pastel would have been great, but sadly I did not have anything like that in my stash right now. So I just went with the second best option. Use what you have, make it work. That's my tip for all sorts of crafting. There you go. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this gave you some confidence to take on your huge mass making project you have been putting on or something like that. Anywho, I hope you will have a fun rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Oh, hey, by the way, before I go, let me know down in the comments if you would like to see more party makes like this. For example, some body favor packs or embellishments for the party. If you're interested in that, let me know, as soon as possible. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now.